Welcome to Power Up, the podcast that uncovers the unique challenges women leaders face today. Join your hosts, Nat and Kristen, as we dive into the tough topics and provide actionable insights you can apply right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. So I was thinking about flying off the handle with this episode and the phrase fly off the handle, and I'm always curious where these weird things came from. So this one in particular, 19th century America, and literally refers to a loose axe head that, if not properly secured, could unexpectedly fly off its wooden handle when swung, and as a result is totally dangerous, out of control. So this is a metaphor now for a person suddenly losing their temper or self-control in a way that is abrupt and unpredictable and often without warning. So when I was thinking about this topic that we're going to get into, about this kind of whole pause and reflect in response to the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism, I was like, fly off the handle. Nat, when was the last time you flew off the handle?
I want to answer that, but I firstly want to talk more about these weird quotes or these terms that we use that we never
Are
know
they
the meaning
idioms?
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. No, I don't know. I think it's a thing we
Okay.
say that actually used to mean something, but often no longer exists. Like we're not axing things anymore, but we still have the saying. And Dad was reading a book yonks ago because this is also my hobby. I love finding out the roots of these labels or these phrases we use. Because the one that used to be quite controversial, I think it was fake controversial. Firstly, was rule of thumb, and someone had started to publicize that the origin of it was you weren't allowed to hit your wife with something that was thicker than your thumb, with a weapon that was thicker than your thumb. I don't think that's true. I think that was just sort of a internet myth. But Dad was like, "Do you know how we figured out what knots were when we're sailing?" And I was like, "No. Do you have any idea of that one?"
No. Cannots? No.
It's they used to literally tie ropes, and they would have knots at a certain number a distance, and they'd feed them over the ship to figure out how fast they were going. I was like, so when we talk about knots, it used to literally most of these things are literal. They were used to be literal, and then they are no longer. The worst one is sold down the river. That one sounds like, oh, you sold me down the
I
river.
can guess exactly what that one is.
Yeah, that was slavery, and that's just awful. That so some of them, I feel like once you learn the origin of it, you're like, "I'm probably not gonna use that one again." That's like a yuck thing to tie
And
back.
there's lots of, innocuous ones as well, and I'm glad you brought that up because when I was in Canada, as you know recently, I was going on morning walks with my stepdad, Kenny, and, he and I got talking about this, so we were thinking of all the terms that we'd ever known, and he is a fountain of kind of weird history and knowledge, and so he was able to tell me where a lot of these weird sentences came from, but I was telling him about one that I recall being introduced to moving to this part of the world, and things like starter for 10 and just weird things that we say, and so on the spot, I was, like, opening up perplexity and being like, "Where'd this stuff come from?" So anyway, back to the
Which
question.
one? Where did starter for 10 come from? And then I'm gonna tell you about my rage.
Oh my gosh, I'm literally perimenopausal. It's already gone out of my brain. I remember we chatted about it, and it originated in Australia, so that was one fact that I remember. I thought it was a cricket thing, but it wasn't a cricket thing. That's all I recall being like, "Ooh," 'cause to me, it sounded like a cricket phrase. I don't know why. Anyway, there was some sorry, unhelpful
No, no,
response, don't
that's
remember.
totally fine. That actually triggers again, I'm not putting off telling you about my rage, but, I received the world's loveliest email this morning from a podcast listener who listened to our episode on friendship, and she just said, "I agreed with every single word you said on that podcast. It was empathetic, but it was true, blah, blah, blah." It was lovely, and it made me think how much joy this is a one-way communication channel, and so we spend a lot of time like, there's probably I don't know how big our audience is, but there's probably someone at least in there going, "I know what starter for 10 means." And I would love for neither of us to look it up and set the challenge that if you are listening to this and you know what it means, email us because that email this morning gave me life. Like I was just so delighted.
Or other favorite phrases that you use that you know about. We'd
Yeah,
love.
I would just love to know that. Okay, on to rage.
Okay.
I get
Okay, rage.
rage particularly in two situations. One is probably, I think, pretty well, actually, both of them are probably pretty common. one is family, like, your family know how to push your buttons more than anyone. You have so much baggage with them, so, like, they just need to do one thing, and I, like, am like, "Oh, I know what they're doing," and actually, most of the time, it's around my boundaries and that I have never been very good at enforcing them with my family. I now am in a relationship with the world's most emotionally stable person who is very quick to go, "I get it," and very much, like, validates my emotions, but also goes, like, we know that this is how this goes, so, like, let's just, like, move on. And then the second one I think is hormonal, that I have done this, and it actually I think because I'm aware of it, it makes me giggle now, but I will be like I will go to bed perfectly happy, and then I'll wake up the next day, and whatever big fluctuation in hormones has happened in, PMS or whatever, leads me somehow my brain will find some slight or perceived slight from it's normally in the last 2 weeks, something that happened that at the time I didn't even blink at, like, it was not a problem. It's nothing, totally fine, and it will go back, hunt through the files in my brain and go, "That, I am gonna be enraged about that." And so I'll wake up in the morning and it's just, like, in it, and it's just like, "I can't believe that happened." And I'm like, "Why am I suddenly caring so much about this, and why is it suddenly, like, bringing me, like, white hot rage?" And then I'm like, "Huh, probably should start calendarizing my periods."
Right.
I know
Yeah, right.
we it hasn't actually happened for a while, but, I think my hormones are all over the place, and there are patches where it's, like, kind of on the month, I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, there we go." What about
Very
you?
good. Okay, well, I thought of a specific one, and it was just the other morning, and to your point, family, because that's often the people that, what is it? It's like you don't choose them, but they're just like these amazing, intense relationships in your life, and so this happened with my daughter who's moved back home, who is this exceptionally highly executive functioning person outside of our, house, in her first year of uni and excelled at everything and won all the awards and never heard from her, and she managed her budget and, like, amazing, right? All this amazing stuff, and then she moves in, and in 1 week, 3 things happened in the course of 24 hours. Number 1, she lost her phone. So she lost her phone on a trip home, a hiking trip, which was unfortunate, and she did all this amazing problem-solving stuff to try and find it, so I was trying to, like, calm Kyle down and be like, "At least she was, like, really
Yeah, at least she
detectiving
cared.
the
I feel like
crap
the
out of
rage
this."
sometimes come when people don't care, but she really did make a
She
good
did,
effort.
she did. But then I kind of my expectation was that she would solve the problem because she was missing work texts and things like that, and I'm like, "You need to go solve this problem," right? So, anyway, so there was that added up with, I have to remember the 3rd thing that actually made me fly off the handle, but the second thing was that she woke
Made your
up
ex
and
break.
yeah, it made my axe break, and the axe head was flying around the house, but the second thing was oh, I know, she's a month late on paying her rent for her last uni installment, and I get it, out of sight, out of mind, you've moved back home, and she doesn't have money in the bank right now, but I'm like, "Solve the problem?" Like, you have to own that shit from end to end, and I was like and then the 3rd thing, which then was the pre-axe, thing, was, that she woke up and I was like, "How are you getting to work?" Curious, I shouldn't have even asked, and she was like, "Oh, can someone drive me?" And I'm like, "No." And she had neglected to organize the night before. Anyway, needless to say, we left the house. When I came back, she had sorted it, but it was like 3 things in 24 hours, so I just was like, "This is adulting 101, Adeline." And then she was like, "Why are you getting so angry? This is not a big deal, like, it's all solvable." But I was just like, 3 things that almost it was all weird emotion wrapped up. Like, it was this classic, like, sort your shit, but then also, why do I care so much? Because she sorts her
Well,
shit.
that's what I was gonna ask you. I'm trying to think of a specific example for me because I feel like this is otherwise one-sided, but we've been talking a lot about the 5 whys, and we're talking today about, how we respond to emotion, and that was an incredible interview we had yesterday with Dr. Amanda Sterling about the difference between feeling your emotions and being driven by them. So I'm really curious to know, what do you think was because, like, in some ways, all 3 of those things don't impact you at all, but there is something underlying that that is, like, triggered that real
I'll
sense
tell
of
you. I'll tell you because I was thinking about it, right? And I think what it is, there's an optics in the family that our youngest gets more leeway and support than Adeline. And they're different. Like I've tried to explain, they're different children. We're not perfect parents. There is a first
Apples and
child, second.
oranges.
Yeah, fine. But also there is absolutely a first child, second child thing. So at the end of the day, I was like, sorry, like we did our best, deal with it. But anytime things happen where she gets into a pickle, her brain goes to slight victimhood. This is terrible. Like, oh my God, she's going to listen to this. But her brain goes to slight victimhood. And as a result,
She's not alone. Like, I
yeah,
reckon 90% of us jump into the drama triangle quite
yeah.
regularly. Like,
Okay, so she's in a drama triangle of, like, no one is helping me pay my last thing, or no one's helping me solve this problem, or no one's helping me get to work, but Grayson is using the car today for training. That's a perfect example when all of this could have been solved, and she has made her problem our problem and the optics problem of the family. Do you see what I mean?
yes, so it's and I think this is actually something that probably does inspire rage. Like, I get really enraged by people who play the victim role. I find the victim role so like, I think it's like the opposite of my personality type, so I find that really rage inducing when people jump into that. I think it's something about this, like, I think especially when we are all well, we've got Judy O'Brien coming up teaching us about wheels of privilege and power, and I think we sit quite close to the center most of us, and so when people play the victim of "woe is me," it's like, "What?"
I know. And it just reinforces her belief of unfairness. And I'm like, "You've literally put yourself in this," just so then I'm panicking because of the pickle she's in, reinforces her belief, and then I'm like, "That is so unfair. I'm so not okay with this." But of course I didn't say that. And we just ran away to the batch. So here we are. Anyway, it
What is it? Join us for more tips on how to deal with difficult
how to
dynamics.
parent. This is how to parent. I can't handle it. Ah! I'm leaving. Not my problem anymore. Anyway, okay, Nat, explain the science to us, and feel free, of course, to share any things that pop up for you with other examples. But share the science with what's happening.
Well, I actually really I've been digging into this as have you in the last well, actually, this is sort of fed on from strategic decision making for me because I feel like whenever we've talked about it on the podcast, I don't know even know if it's published yet, but when we've been talking about it for Power Suit around how you think more strategically. And I think strategic thinking sits at the complete opposite end of the continuum than emotional thinking. And the thing that often frustrates me when we're talking about five whys and decision making in the offices and it's opinion based and it's emotional based and it's ego based and it's like I want this to be because I want to feel validated or whatever that to me like that's kind of almost the victim thing. So I've been thinking about how emotions play a role because I think emotions are incredibly important and I think pretending as humans we don't have them is weird. So it's like how do we use our emotions and be self-aware about our emotions and how they may be driving some of our thinking so that we can be more intentional about how we use them. So I'm loving this patch because it's something that I really think is very important when it comes to success at work and in life. So digging into it, we love this little thing called the amygdala. We talk about it quite a lot. We talk about it when we talk about saying yes to big opportunities and fear of failure and fear of rejection. And it's actually two little almonds in our brains, but I Googled it. I still Google. They've added AI, so I suppose I'm using AI. They talk about them as one. So your amygdala is considered one. Two little almonds. And its entire job is to help us our survival systems in our brain. It's our protective system and it runs it. And what I find so cool about this little thing and how our brains work, they're just so amazing how our brains work, is it is designed to help us in times of threat. So when you think about most of the time when you think about threats, and I've experienced this before when you're walking down the street and there's a guy following you. Side note, if you're a man listening to this, always cross the road if you are walking behind a woman at nighttime on your own and they're on their own. So this thing perks up and you notice it that you suddenly have your blood pressure or you get this tingling, maybe your hair's rising on your back, you start to breathe faster. There's something that you start to notice your body's changing, and that is your amygdala kicking in. And they call it an amygdala hijack because effectively its job is to go, all those systems, all our classic systems we use in our brain to think strategically or make great decisions or communicate well, they're like pretty complicated processes and analysis that we go through. The amygdala goes, bypass all of that. We are in danger right now. I am jumping in. If you've ever watched what's the name of that movie? I really love the movie about the emotions, and they're on the little do you know what's that movie called? Inside Out. Inside Out. The amygdala's got the little controls, and it's like, "I'm in. Everyone else away. Get out you go. I am gonna instantly respond to protect you in this situation." So it could be you depending on who you are. I think this one's pretty ingrained, like, I don't think we jump between them. You might be fight, flight, or freeze. I think the best way to test that is if you, hear a loud noise or a door slam, what do you find yourself doing? Do you turn towards the door? Do you sort of jump away, or do you find yourself closing in and freezing down? That's probably your default. So this thing is perfectly designed to help us bypass everything in your brain that's logical and just get straight to protecting you. The problem is it cannot tell the difference between a physical threat and an emotional threat. So if someone's yelling at you, or you're in a conflict situation, or you're feeling under pressure, or you're getting given feedback that you may find challenging, your amygdala will jump in and do the exact same thing, take over. So you're no longer reacting responding rationally or thinking intentionally about what you're doing. This thing that is trying to protect you take over. So it goes, I'm going to be really defensive because that's a protection instinct. I'm going to double down and really reinforce. I'm going to interrupt you and push my point forward. It does all that without us really thinking about it. So we find ourselves afterwards really regretting how we behaved and feeling like it wasn't really who we were. But that is because you have been hijacked by a little almond in
Mhm.
your brain.
Mm. So this is a phenomenon that I think happens in about 3 to 6 seconds, and which is helpful when you kind of think we just have to adopt the tools to make it through those 6 seconds. So we'll talk about this in a minute, but I was thinking of this, amygdala hijack and of people that have absolutely gone from 0 to, 100 in those 3 to 6 seconds in a very public way, or that has been reported on, and I was thinking of, um, Mike Tyson biting Holyfield's ear off in a boxing match, like, that was globally reported, and it's quite a crazy thing to do, and you'd think that must have been amygdala hijack because it's not a thing he had ever done in boxing matches before, like, it's kind of a extreme thing to do. Thinking of, John McEnroe and how he reacts in anger on the, playing tennis, and he would just destroy racket after racket, and it was like this almost this amygdala hijack that left, like that was accepted and acceptable, there was no consequence to it, so it was just a pattern he got into. I don't know if you remember the story of Lorena Bobbitt. Do you remember that story, Nat? And her cutting her husband's okay. Again, something that out of such fear and anger or whatever, you go to those extreme measures, quite something. And, I don't know, can you think of any? Like, any that come to mind?
I was actually thinking about the tennis and how there's, very different standards because I think Serena Williams and there's actually a few women who have got to that level and have been really judged on the tennis court, whereas it's kind of expected of men. I'm trying to think of some other examples. There you see I mean, you kinda see it all the time when it's someone who does something I'm thinking about celebrities who does something quite ridiculous and I mean, in some ways, it's probably not true. I was gonna say I always sort of thought Prince Harry, but I think that's a slightly different thing of like some of those reactions and when he's sort of really in the midst of this family breakdown and some of that behavior. But I think it might be driven by slightly different things.
Right. What about, the Will Smith slap, Chris Rock? That
Yes.
feels like it was a hijack.
I'm always skeptical. I'm like, was it or was it like a
Or was it all planned? Maybe, maybe. Okay, well, let's think in a work context. I think in a
well,
work context.
yes, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just wanted to say before we go into the work context, the other thing that I thought is really important for us to be clear on with our amygdala is they are always learning. So you may be triggered, your little almonds may jump in for very different reasons than mine might jump in. So, for example, if like going to physical safety, if I've been in a situation where, yeah, there is someone behind me and it's not been great, my amygdala will go, oh, I've clocked that. So next time you're in that same situation, I'm going to leap in really quickly to protect you. Same goes though for the emotional stuff. So if you've come from a background, like we notice this a lot with power suitors, someone who's been given really harsh criticism phrased as feedback really struggles to get feedback from then on in. They have this immediate response to it and there's probably countless examples, but to be aware that your threshold or your threshold in different situations is probably quite unique. I was talking to Kyla about it the other day, and I'm trying to remember what we were talking about, but I said, "Oh, it's so interesting that I was thinking about her parenting and her parents, and her mum is amazing. Both her parents are amazing, but they're actually also not that much older than me. So like we're kind of similar generations. They've raised her in a particular way. And I was like thinking about amygdalas, and I was like, that's why you're so emotionally steady. Like you don't have a lot of the damage that a lot of us have. And your amygdala hasn't learned because you haven't been put in what you perceive to be dangerous situations a lot. Emotion.
I also wonder if people are just wired differently to how they experience that. And I only think of people that I remember watching that, oh my goodness, the show The Free Climb, Solo. I think it was called Solo. And the guy basically climbs insane multi-pitch walls without any protective gear whatsoever.
Yes, I don't
And
think he
so
has one, or it's not functional. I think he said
exactly.
that.
So it's possible that Kyla, like possibly their amygdalas just aren't as, reactive as ours as well. But anyway, who knows?
Yes,
But
no,
I
there's
was thinking,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
is true, that could be true, but also the other thing, which I think is kind of the what we're gonna get to next, is all of these things can be true. Your amygdala could be rocketing, but it's that emotional regulation and nervous system regulation that means that even if it's in the same state as everyone else's, you can have more control over it. So, there's any number of factors, like you may be fortunate to be a free climber who doesn't have one that functions. I feel like I might be making that up, but I'm pretty sure I've seen an interview where they've done research on his brain and he's like, it's just not there. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of, or it's not firing, a lot of very high risks like base jumpers and stuff. But for the rest of us, I actually think the biggest difference is how much work we've done to really be self aware, recognize how we feel, and then get back in the control seat.
Yeah. Well, I think, you go through the pause. So just go through to wrap up Nat, like, I think there's a really great tool that we can pull out when we feel it, but I just wanted to introduce your tool, in a really, I suppose, common workplace scenarios where the amygdala can fire and hijack right away, and I think it can happen in meetings when there's certain phrases, or patterns of people that trigger us. For me, it's like, I remember Jared used to play with his water bottle all the time, and it was really noisy, and I've got that food disease where I can't hear people with food and drink, so that was triggering to me. Things like, when you're interrupted, for example, emails are a big one. You get an email and you respond immediately and then regret it. I think 88% of employees regret the emails that they send in haste. Any comments or as per, those can all be triggering. So I just wanted to set the scene with common workplace stuff, and then you can wrap up with what to do.
And texting as well. And like even just some of those situations, because a lot of it's perception, it's not even necessarily reality. Like I think that's kind of that point about our amygdala jumping in is like it goes, oh, this has triggered me into going danger. And the other person could have meant nothing by it, but we have to recognize and work with the fact that our brains are these incredible machines, like Ferraris, that sometimes have a little thing that kind of goes wonky. So yes, emails is a good one. And I think that the general consensus is you should wait overnight before hitting send on a particularly a tricky email. And do you do this? I do this all the time.
Wait?
Yeah.
No, I never wait. I do all the wrong stuff. I never wait.
Oh,
I
okay.
need
I
to wait. I'm
definitely
gonna
do.
listen to
And
this
the other
episode
thing I
and then
do
wait.
is what's that?
I'm gonna listen to this episode and then wait.
I just think, well, I don't wait. Okay, no, that's incorrect. I will write the full email straight away. And then I normally in a doc, like now I move it out of email or I don't have an email address associated with it to keep myself risk free. I bled it out and it's normally like 20 paragraphs long and it's like, here's all the details. And then I walk away from it and come back. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's the next day. I actually find the practice of getting it out actually helps diminish that panic or the fight or flight. Well, I'm a freezer. That the amygdala feeling, like getting it out. I have done the thing and it's out now. So when I go back to it, I'll normally take it down to a couple of sentences. It's far more professional. It definitely usually doesn't address the thing that I spent 90% of the last email on because it wasn't worth it. And send it. So I think with emails, email is not an instant tool. You are allowed, same with text, you can sit on it for as long as you like. You do not need to reply straight away. But in most one on one or in person situations, or even on Zoom, it is much harder to be able to take that longer gap. You're in the moment. And this is not my tool. This is like a pretty common tool that I think is widely practiced. And it is hard to do because remember, you have been hijacked by your amygdala. So I really loved what Amanda Sterling said yesterday about having a plan. So, like, the next time, if this happens, she said, if and then, if this happens, I will. And I think having that plan of going, okay, if I'm in a meeting and I feel that, like, especially if it's someone that you kind of clash with sometimes, or it's a thing that bothers you, what is my plan? And having that up front, it's like saying no, it's like all the stuff we talk about. Having a plan will make it infinitely easier, but the plan really needs to be stop. Give yourself a pause. And like you say, it's 3 to 6 seconds. It may be slightly longer, so you've got a couple of tools in front of you. One is to literally take a drink, like sit back and take a drink. And just the act of doing that buys you some time. Same thing with writing some notes. If it's particularly tough, if you can like get yourself into a state of being able to go, excuse me, I'm just going to pop out and go to the bathroom or something to like go buy yourself a bit more time. It's kind of just creating an opportunity to take some time. If you're on a Zoom call or a phone call where you maybe have to sit and look out the window and take a couple of deep breaths, but like get yourself out of that situation however you can, looking down at some notes, looking out the window, whatever it can do to give yourself a couple of seconds to take some deep breaths and get back control over your amygdala and recognizing that it's in control. That will really, really help. And you'll know you're back in control where things start to calm down. You're no longer feeling like I need to lash out and do exactly, what my instincts are telling me. I'm starting to be a bit more rational again. You will feel ready to then respond rather than react. No one's going to get it perfect all the time, but I feel like having that pause and just remembering, I like the rule, just having a pause of next time this happens, I'm going to count to 5. Or next time this happens, I'm going to sit down and write pause, 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 whatever it might be, to just give yourself that gap to be able to like and be ready to respond.
I'm gonna do it. I'm a fighter, so I need this. So breathe. For me, I think it'll be breathing. I'm such a fighter. And I was thinking just like so bad in the moment, which is why I fly off the handle with my children. And remember even like stabbing a fork in the table one time when they were young. I like literally and it stuck up in the table. I'm like, wow, okay. And then
Well, I've got
but I
to
have
say though, one thing you do really
yeah.
well, which is a tool that we underutilize a lot, is we assume that people have to do stuff in the moment. So you've said this to me before of like, let's just have a break. We're in the middle of talking about something. You're like, actually, I'm not thinking clearly about it now. Like, tell me what you want to tell me, and then like let me go away and think about it. And it is a professional thing to say, hey, I'm just gonna need a bit more time to think about this, or let me go away and I'll come back to you. Even in a meeting, if someone's like, what's your opinion on this? Or they've interrupted you and you can go, hey, questions aimed at you, you go, I'm just gonna think about it a little bit more. I might get back to you in a couple of hours. That's all you need to do. Like you don't need to respond there. You can just go, cool, cool, cool. You're not feeling cool, but you're acting cool. I've got this. I'm going to go away, regain control of my brain, and I'll get back to you then. You don't need to
Love it.
tell
I
them
love
that
the
part.
pause. No, I love it. I love the wrapping up of the pause. Love it. Love it. No, it's
Fab.
good.
Well, send us. I would love to hear what's your tactic. I would love to hear people's tactics. I think you can comment on this app as well, but email us otherwise. And your the words or the phrases you use that you know the meaning of. Bonus points if you know the meaning of
Yeah,
starter for
and what they're
10.
even called. If they're not idioms, what are they called? I don't even
Oh
know.
yeah, and if you know
Um,
what they're called.
yeah, if you know what they're called. And check out powersuit.com and come join us in Powersuit because it's lots of fun. And yeah, that's it. We'll just catch y'all next time, everyone. Take care.
Take a pause.
Bye.
Bye.
Take a pause. Bye. Bye.